Welcome back to Normal Baseball. The Orioles have taken over first place in the American League East. Carlos Rodon blew some kisses to some angry Yankee fans. And what teams will be buyers or sellers at the deadline? We're going to talk about all of that and more. Welcome back to Normal Baseball. I'm Alex Normal Dog. That's Lewis. And we had a nice slate of games yesterday, if I'm being honest. I had fun watching some of the games yesterday. Obviously, sorry about that. We're getting ready for the weekend series. A lot of the games were ending. A lot of the series were ending yesterday. Some end today. And do you watch the baseball yesterday, Lewis?
Oh yeah, of course, and it was entertaining as it always has been.
Fair enough. So one of the biggest things from yesterday is that we actually have a new leader in the American League East. What seemed very unlikely after the Tampa Bay Rays' hot start to the season, the Baltimore Orioles have taken over first place in the American League East. They beat the Dodgers yesterday. They avoided the sweep against the Dodgers. And now they're in first place. Obviously, on the actual MLB standings, they are tied for first with the Rays, but the Orioles win percentage is .611, and the Rays win percentage is .606. So, if you're going based off win percentage, the Orioles are in sole possession of first place right now. Pretty insane, because who would have thought at the beginning of the season, after the first month of the season, that the Rays wouldn't just ride in first place for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it felt like they were going to.
Yeah, very impressive for the Orioles. Very, very impressive. Really? Very impressive for the Orioles. You got nothing to say to that?
No, it certainly has been. I mean, the fact that we essentially counted out the entire AL East so quickly, and the Baltimore Orioles looked at us and said, fuck you, we're going to go out there and win this goddamn division.
Jeez. And
they've gone on to just win, and win over and over and over again. And it feels like, honestly, I think it's fair to say that we didn't put that tag on Baltimore of, it feels like they're an unstoppable force.
I wouldn't say unstoppable.
But they play such a good brand of baseball. They've made an amazing comeback in terms of winning a division early in the season, where they put themselves into contention early, and now they are sitting atop the AL East, which a lot of people consider the best division in baseball. It was impressive. I was shocked. I was blown away, and I think that this is a quick pit stop for the Orioles, because they're going to keep moving forward. You know, they're not going to get caught up in the moment of being in first place.
I don't know if I would call them unstoppable. The Dodgers did take 2 of 3 from them, and they would have swept them had Julio Urias not given up 8 earned runs.
It's true.
So I wouldn't really call them unstoppable. I will say they are very good at not getting swept or winning series, because I believe it's been 70 straight series that they have not been swept now. So they always find a way to win. I would like to say that. They find a way to win. They find a way to get it done on a day-to-day basis. But I would say, in terms of in the AL East, I think that they can beat any team in the AL East, and I think they might wind up winning this division this year.
Yeah.
Because I was saying at the beginning of the week that I could see them sitting in first place by the end of the weekend. They might be sitting in first place before the weekend even starts, which is even crazier to think about. I don't know if they play the Rays starting today. So should they win tonight against Tampa, they will be sitting in sole possession of first place, even with the MLB standings, even though right now they are by win percentage in first. Could very well see them sweeping this series. Tampa has lost 4 in a row. They just got swept by the Rangers. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Obviously, after their beautiful, incredible, amazing start to the season, they've struggled a lot. So I could definitely see Baltimore sweeping this 4-game series. It's very possible.
Yeah. Tampa is coming into this 3-7 out of their last 10, which if you're a Rays fan, which I don't know how many there are out there, but if you're a Rays fan, it does not look good, especially when you consider, yes, you got swept by the Rangers, you dropped a game to the Kansas City Royals, and nearly got swept by Atlanta had it not been for that last game that you guys played on the 9th. So, if you're the Rays, yes, I believe. Who are the starting pitchers today?
Today it is Kyle Gibson for the Orioles against Tyler Glasnow of the Rays.
Yeah, so if you're the Rays, I guess the bright spot to look at is that you have Tyler Glasnow going, who I think it's fair to say we have seen him be very dominant at times. And let's hope that maybe he can get back on track against one of the better teams in baseball right now in the Orioles. Would love to see how this series is going to play out, and I think that this should be the series to watch this weekend coming up.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely going to be the series to watch this weekend in terms of what it means for division standings. The biggest one, obviously. I would like to say for the Orioles, they did just lose Cedric Mullins to an injury. He is on the 10-day IL now with a strained groin, so that always sucks, literally. That's not a great injury to have, but now you'll be seeing Aaron Hicks playing center field pretty much every game. He's been pretty good. You know, obviously he started off on fire with them, hitting 241. But yeah, I do have to mention that Cedric Mullins is now on the IL. Pretty unfortunate, to be honest.
Yes.
But they also did make a trade yesterday.
They did?
Yesterday, the Baltimore Orioles acquired Shintaro Fujinami from the Oakland Athletics in exchange for Easton Lucas. Shintaro Fujinami is an interesting pickup for the Orioles.
Yeah.
He hasn't been good this year in his time in MLB. He started off as a starter. He was quickly moved to the bullpen after just not being good. I don't know. He's got an 8.57 ERA in 34 games, only 7 starts. He's finished 9 games. It's an interesting move for the Orioles. I know you love it. Why don't you talk a little bit about it?
So, I will tell you that Shintaro Fujinami, as a starter, simply did not work. He obviously was very easy to figure out for some teams that he faced early in the season, but he did really, really pick it up as soon as he got moved to the bullpen and started pitching for higher velo, more intensity in shorter amount of innings. You know, we have seen him go an inning, 2 innings, an inning and 2/3, which I think is a great sign because Shintaro Fujinami has a 102-mile-an-hour sinker that not only moves down, but also moves horizontally, I believe is the right word. Yeah, horizontally, that is absolutely disgusting. There's no other way to put it. Batters look confused. They don't understand how to hit it. I don't understand how the hell he throws it because it is dangerous and it is impressive. And I also want to point out that his numbers since moving to the bullpen are absolutely amazing. Man. Since May 27th, Shintaro Fujinami has a 9.1 K per 9, a 2.5 walks per 9, with an opponent's slash line of 234, 291, and 403. Which, okay, not too bad. Since June 28th, he has not walked a single batter. His K per 9 is up to 9.8, and his opponent's slash line, the opponents against him are batting 184.
Yeah, he's
dangerous.
Really picked it up in the bullpen. I was just about to say kind of the same thing. I actually had the same day since May 27th. He's had like a 3-something ERA, low 3 ERA. Very, very impressive. Honestly, it seems like the bullpen is kind of where he belonged in the first place.
Yes.
Do I necessarily think he would be a closer? No. I think he is a middle of the bullpen type guy.
Yes.
And I think that's what the Orioles wanted out of him. I don't think they're going to try to make him a starter again, or at least I don't think it would be a smart decision. In his last 5 games, last 5 appearances, opponent slash line of 200 batting average with a 600 OPS, and just how many earned runs? Just two runs given up. I don't know. I think this is what the Orioles wanted. They wanted kind of a middle of the bullpen kind of guy, like I said. So I'm interested to see how he performs and
Yeah.
if he continues to play well. I know a lot of A's fans are very upset because, once this guy actually starts performing well, they trade him immediately.
I mean, if that's not indicative of how the A's season has gone and how the future of their organization seems to be moving, then I don't know what is. But I will say, in terms of the Baltimore Orioles, having essentially, I think, the most reliable bullpen arms in baseball in terms of Yennier Cano and Felix Bautista. Yennier, my apologies. Now adding another guy who, for a good portion of his time in MLB, has been very reliable and very good, is interesting. Now, hey, tell your starter, go 5 innings. Go 5 innings. Just get us to 5. Shintaro comes in for 2, then Yennier Cano, and then Felix Bautista to close it. I don't know what team is putting up more than a run against that type of rotation in a single game.
Yeah, but the thing is, their starters could also go 7 or 8 innings.
Yeah,
their starters have been sneakily good this year.
Well, you don't want to burn them out if you're going to push for the postseason.
But you're not burning them out. If they're pitching 7 innings with only 85 pitches.
Well, yeah,
you're not asking. I'm not saying that. Well, I'm not saying they're going to go 7 innings with throwing 150 pitches. I'm saying they're going to go 7 innings, throw 100 pitches, 90 pitches.
Yeah.
They certainly have shown to do that throughout the course of the season. I thought that this team's downfall would be their starting rotation, but it actually hasn't. It really hasn't. There's been no downfall because they've been a really good team.
Yeah, the only spot to really be upset about in terms of starting rotation is a guy who hasn't started every game when he would be scheduled, and that's Grayson Rodriguez, the young gun,
who has
been sent down. So that's the only spot that you would be like, damn, if he was even throwing to a 3.5 ERA, I think that you would be talking about this rotation just being absolutely deadly. But you're missing a few things. Obviously, they're trying their best to figure it out, work it out, and get everything all squared away because they're going to make a postseason push. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just a matter of what will their postseason rotation and entire roster look like come postseason. Because right now, they're relying on a lot of young guys. A lot of guys who we did not know if they were going to be called up this year. A lot of guys we did not know if they were going to perform in the major leagues this year. Gunnar Henderson being one of them. At 22 years old, this guy is up here batting .247, which is just absolutely amazing. They have guys like Ryan McKenna, all-time great for the Orioles. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face.
All-time great.
But they have a lot of guys who have touched their actual MLB roster who are still just on the 40-man roster. What are they going to do come postseason time? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I also, when we talk about their starting rotation, a guy who was very long forgotten about at this point, John Means. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to come back, I think, in September.
Yes.
So obviously, he would be taking Grayson Rodriguez's spot if I had to guess, because Grayson Rodriguez has really not been good at all this season. And I'm very interested to see how he pencils into this rotation. If he becomes that John Means that we saw right before he got injured. And that John Means was absolutely nasty. So I'm excited to see that.
Right back in as the starting pitcher 1 and anchoring a starting rotation that has been this good for this season. John Means would be amazing.
Very interested to see what happens with that. But we still do have a little bit for that. We have over a month and a half to see what happens with that. As far as the Orioles, that's all I have.
Agreed. I am extremely happy with the Fujinami trade. I think it's going to work out really, really well for the Orioles. And let's go Birds.
Let's go Birds. As far as another team in the AL East that we talked about yesterday as well that is struggling is the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees got swept by the Angels yesterday after losing the final game of the series 7-3. They are in a deep, dark place. They are not doing good at all. Aaron Judge is close to a return, according to Aaron Boone, who is the Yankee manager. What close means, we don't even know. But they are very much struggling, and they're getting close to the point of no return in terms of making the playoffs. What I want to talk about with the Yankees is, yes, they got swept, but there was a situation that happened yesterday. Apparently, Carlos Rodon was coming off the mound, and a few Yankee fans were chirping him by the dugout, and he blew them a kiss, and just kind of, he blew them a kiss in a mean, not a good way.
After
Obviously.
giving up, what was it?
Gave
Six
up
runs?
Four runs. But, you're this guy who they just signed to a 6-year deal.
And a lot of money.
Worth a lot of money. And you miss the first 4 months of the season. And you come back and in your first 3 starts have a 7.36 ERA when you're supposed to be one of the greatest. You're supposed to be one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. And they get mad at you and you're blowing them kisses. You're trying to chirp back at them. You're the one who's given up, who's losing them games when you're supposed to be the one who, along with Garrett Cole, is going to be one of the main people who wins them games on the pitching side.
Yeah.
So, not a good look for Carlos Rodon. And it kind of just it just feels like another thing that is just going wrong with the Yankees. Now the players are starting to get mad at fans, which is just, it's very much rubbing everyone the wrong way. And not very... I see why Rodon did it, because, he's like, fuck you. Like, how about that? Like, I'm the Major League Baseball pitcher here. Fuck you. How about, don't chirp me when I'm coming off the mound at an away stadium. I understand that from Rodon, but I don't think that it was the right thing to do.
Agreed. However, I think I've said it time and time again of Carlos Rodon over the last 2 seasons, in 2021 and 2022, was one of the best pitchers in baseball. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was amazing. Finished 5th and 6th in Cy Young voting while being an all-star both times, where he absolutely shoved. Another way to put it. In 310 innings and 2/3, he had an ERA plus of 156, which, when 100 is league average, being essentially 56% better than league average, is amazing. And the fact that he's come out here so far in his 3 games to the tune of having a 59 ERA plus, or an easier way to put it, a 7.36 ERA, is upsetting if you're a Yankee fan. It's hard to stomach that that your owner went out and said, okay, not only are we going to sign Aaron Judge to this massive contract, but we're also going to sign a really, really good starting pitcher to this massive contract who looks like he's turning the corner and at age 30 is going to have his best season, and now he's not. Like, he's not even close to having one of his best seasons at all so far. Would love to see if he turns it around, but, you really... I don't know how much a team can bank on a guy that's bickering with the fans and giving into the fans. It's the New York media. They're going to blow it up. You can't, for Rodon, this is not Chicago anymore.
Right.
This is not San Francisco anymore. He can't get away with it.
Rodon did say, in all fairness to Rodon, he did say that he regrets doing it. He said, it was a frustrating outing, that's for sure, and I showed it during the second. I didn't really pay mind to what exactly was said, but a fan was angry, as they should be. I'm angry too, and I was just angry at myself and just blew a kiss, unfortunately. So he's not proud of it, and he's not backing up his decision to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree, his next start in the Bronx, they might not be as nice to him, or they might, if he gives up more than 3 earned runs, they might get pretty mad at him.
Yeah.
I want to say they might start booing him, which, do I think that's reasonable either? No, not at all. But he did say that he kind of regretted it, so I feel like that should be said. But, yeah 7.36 ERA in 3 starts is not what you want to hear, especially from a guy like Carlos Rodon.
Agreed. Let's see what happens in his next start. Let's see what goes on, and let's see how Carlos Rodon is going to respond. Because right now, the ball's in his court. His next start, I think, should be in the Bronx, if I'm not mistaken. I think it should be in the Bronx. no better way to...
Yeah, it should be against the Mets in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday.
So, I mean, this is like a double or nothing type of deal. Not only are you pitching back in the Bronx, but you're going against the crosstown team, in the New York Mets. Let's see what you can do. Show us that you can at least record a win. Show us that you can go far into a game. Show us that you can prevent the long ball while not sacrificing on strikeouts or, even just hits. Let's see what you can do, because right now you are not the pitcher that the Yankees paid all this money for.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. But although, the Yankees are still losing games because they can't score runs.
Yes.
So we can't all put the blame on Rodon. We can't put all the blame on Rodon because he did only give up 4. We can't act like he gave up 18 runs, But yeah, that's all I got for the Yankees. They're still in last place. We'll see what happens there. And yeah. So, moving on, we wanted to just quickly talk about some buyers and sellers at the deadline. The first one we kind of wanted to talk about is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Lewis, I understand you have a quote from their GM.
I do.
If you want to read that off quick.
So the GM, Mike Hazen, had said to the Arizona Republic, a newspaper, I almost said news reporter, a newspaper in Arizona. He said, quote, "There's a difference between being aggressive and being reckless. We're not going to be reckless. We will be aggressive, even ultra-aggressive. But I feel like being reckless does not serve anyone's interest, this year's team or in the future." And this was in regards to whether or not the Diamondbacks, who are currently in the second wild card in the National League, are going to buy at the deadline. In my opinion, there's a massive conversation to be had here, because you can say on one hand, yes, it takes a long time to build up a farm system, but on the other hand, it also takes a lot to hang a banner, a World Series banner, in your stadium, where you have to make the sacrifice of being reckless. And I think there's a way, I think that to go from what the Diamondback situation is right now of could possibly win the NL West, could get that wild card spot and make a real good run and make a lot of noise, to even possibly making a World Series. Because once you put those teams in the playoffs, I'm not counting anyone out. I want to know from your side, is it worth it to be reckless if you think you can win a World Series?
I'm still going to go with no. I don't think it's worth it to be reckless. Reckless, I agree with him in the sense of there is a difference between reckless and aggressive. Being aggressive at the deadline is making those, smart moves and kind of still preserving, not giving up too much talent, but also getting talent that you need. Being reckless is just saying, yeah, you know what, we'll trade Jordan Lawler. We'll trade Drew Jones to get a top-of-the-line pitcher. But, in all reality, is that really the smartest thing to do? No. Say if they got Dylan Cease from the White Sox, they would have to give up, Drew Jones or Jordan Lawler, or one of their top 5-6 prospects, because obviously Cease still has time left on his deal, so they're gonna want something big. And I just don't think that is what they want to be doing. And I think that's the kind of reckless that he's talking about. Reckless in the sense of, we're just kind of trade whoever to get whoever. We don't really care as much who we're trading away. That's not what they're trying to do. They care about who they're trading away. And I don't think that they're ready to, get rid of many minor league talent or their top 5 prospects. I don't really think they're ready to do that. I think that's kind of what the aggressive is more of, we'll get the guy who's on the 1-year deal who will be a rental, but we won't really have to pay much for him. We'll give our maybe 30th overall prospect or, something like that. Nothing crazy for a rental of a guy. Someone I'm trying to think of on the last year of their deal type guy. Blake Snell kind of guy.
Oh my God, Blake Snell in the desert would be electric.
like a Blake Snell type guy. Obviously, you would have to probably give up maybe a top 10 prospect for Blake Snell because he's on the last year of his deal and he's been really good. But you're not going to have to give up, the Drew Jones, Jordan Lawler, Dre Jameson, stuff like you might give up Dre Jameson, but you don't want to be like reckless. You don't want to just kind of give up whoever to get whoever. That's kind of my thoughts. So I see what he's saying. I think there is a way to be aggressive without being reckless and still compete for a World Series.
All right. The way that I look at it is that if you want to compete, especially in today's game of baseball, you have to be reckless.
I don't think so.
Especially if you're put into the situation of what the Diamondbacks are, where this is kind of a situation where, wow, we're this late into the season and we're a game and a half behind the Dodgers. We had first place in the NL West. We're competing with the Giants, and hell, you never know what San Diego can do because they could make noise and maybe sneak into a wild card spot come later in the season. I think it's only fair to say that if you want to try to put your team in the best situation to win a World Series, you have to be reckless. And that's not, answer the phone and immediately say yes to whatever trade comes in. But maybe you do have to sacrifice your number 3, number 4, number 9 prospect if you are the Arizona Diamondbacks in order to put yourself in the best situation to win this season. Which fans will tell you it's reckless. I will tell you it's reckless. But me personally, I love the recklessness of it because it puts you in the greatest situation to win. That's the way that I stand on it. I think that we sort of see the same thing. However, I'm just more of, let's push the envelope.
Well, we're actually on quite opposite sides.
Let's see what happens.
We're actually the exact opposite.
Well, I agree with you in terms of it's dangerous to be reckless in terms of long-term success. I just don't know how smart it is to not be reckless in terms of short-term success.
But there's a way to... Let me give you this example. So, do you remember in 2021 when the Atlanta Braves traded for Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, and Jorge Soler at the deadline? Yeah. 3 kind of underrated moves that a lot of people were unsure about. And kind of like, these are kind of random moves. Well, to get those players, first of all, Jorge Soler was traded. They acquired him for a right-handed pitcher, minor league right-handed pitcher named Casey College. I believe I'm saying that right. He is currently in Double-A. He is how old? He's 25 years old in Double-A. So not great. He's got a 3.67 ERA. So, by the way, Jorge Soler was their World Series MVP, who they gave up just some left-handed pitcher. Right-handed pitcher, my fault. Jock Peterson, they got in exchange for Bryce Ball, who Bryce Ball currently for the Cubs, in the Cubs system right now, is hitting .214 this season in Double-A and Single-A. .214. So they got Jock Peterson for that. Remember how special Jock Peterson was in that 2021 postseason. Yep. And Eddie Rosario, of course, we all remember how amazing he was in that postseason Eddie. Push, and LCS MVP. They got him for Pablo Sandoval. So I think that perfectly kind of shows how a team can be aggressive and buy players at the deadline without really being reckless and giving up any prospects or anything. They could have very easily went and got one of the bigger outfielders at that deadline, but they didn't because they didn't want to give up too many prospects, at the time prospects, and it worked out for them. So I think there is a way to that's just my example of being aggressive but not being reckless. And I think that's a really good example of it, what the Braves did in 2021.
Yes, it is, but in this year's trade market, how many players are we going to see that are of that caliber where they have the potential to be great, but are going to be cheap right now as compared to what went on in 2021?
I think you have a good few. I'll name a couple. Dom Smith, I think Dom Smith's been really, really good this season. I think he would be a really good
first baseman.
Well, I'm not saying outfield. I'm not saying specifically outfielder. I'm just saying players who could very much,
Make a difference.
Get traded under the radar and then make a big difference once they get to their team. Just that whole idea of that in general. Okay. I think Dom Smith is one of those guys. I think Hunter Renfroe could be one of those guys should the Angels wind up selling. Tim Anderson, obviously he struggled a lot, but maybe a change of scenery could help. Randall Grichuk could be a guy who does that. He's been really good in Colorado. And Brent Rooker, obviously, the A's will probably trade him because they're stupid. And, just guys like that. I feel like they could make some under-the-radar moves, and once they get to their new teams, just start popping off. So, we'll see what happens there. That's just my opinion of being able to be aggressive but not reckless.
Okay. I can get behind what you're saying. And, yes, I agree with you I think it's fair to say to an extent, because I think that being a little reckless is what puts you in the best situation to win.
Yeah. Well, depends. Maybe some of the bigger teams, like if you're the Astros, maybe, if you're the really the Astros are the big Dodgers, maybe, I could see them kind of going all in for a guy. But as far as
this guy who also plays in Los Angeles, he hits a lot of home runs and strikes out a lot of batters.
Yeah. As far as like the teams like the Diamondbacks and even the Orioles go, I can't see even the Orioles. I can't see them giving up. I know that they have one of the deepest farm systems in baseball. I don't think they're gonna want to give up too much. I don't think they're gonna want to give up too many of those guys in their farm system at this trade deadline. Even though it would help significantly, I don't know if they'd be willing to do that. So I don't know. We'll see. With time, we will see. But that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. So we will see. That's all that we can really say. We will see, because there's a lot going on that obviously you and I don't know. We're not in the phone calls. We're not listening to what every GM has to say. We're not there to talk to anyone. So we'll have to just wait and see. And I think that it's going to be interesting because there are going to be a lot of things that I think no one is going to expect. And I think we're going to see a lot of teams be a little reckless because they think they have a chance.
Yep. I mean, maybe. I thought we were talking about the Diamondbacks specifically, too, as well.
Yeah, well, the Diamondbacks, I think
they're.
I think we're going to see a lot of things that none of us expect.
Well, we'll see. With time, we will see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a couple teams that are kind of on the borderline,
the fringe
of should they buy or sell. And you'll tell me if you think that they should buy or sell without too much explanation.
All right.
So, the Boston Red Sox, they are 8 games out of first place, and they are currently 2.5 games out of a wild card. Buy or sell?
Neither. Just sit where they are.
Okay. The Toronto Blue Jays, 5.5 games out of first place, and in the third wild card spot, tied with Houston.
Buy.
Okay. The Cleveland Guardians, 1.5 games out of first place and 6 games back of the wild card.
Sell. Yes.
Okay.
Although they will probably buy, I believe that the right direction is to sell.
The Los Angeles Angels, currently 9 games back of first place and only 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. Buy. Okay. Moving on to the National League, the Miami Marlins, 10 games out of first place and 0.5 game out of a wild card spot.
Buy, baby. Ride with the boys down south.
Okay.
Go get Shohei.
The Chicago Cubs, currently 7.5 games out of first place and 7 games out of a wild card spot.
Sell. I think that they are not where they expected to be, and it's better to retool and re-up and prepare for future seasons rather than kind of waste a lot of guys' seasons that they have right now.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, San Diego Padres, 9.5 games out of first place and 6.5 games out of a wild card spot. Still could possibly turn it around. What do you think? Buy or sell?
Small sell.
Okay. Small sell. I like it.
Yep.
What else do we got? I think that's really all we got for today. Looking into series that are beginning today. Obviously, these are kind of this is the weird, Thursdays are the weird middle ground of some series are ending, some series are beginning. We have Milwaukee And Philly, by the way, Bryce Harper stood in the box and stared at 6 pitches and got struck out looking yesterday. That was weird if you saw that.
Yeah.
The Giants and Reds finished their series. The Braves and Diamondbacks finished their series. The Blue Jays and Padres finished their series. The White Sox and Mets finished their series. Twins and Mariners finished their series. Royals and Tigers finished their series. And then the new series, Baltimore, Tampa. Everyone make sure you watch that if you want to see just, meaningful baseball right now. Cardinals, Cubs starting up. That's, classic rivalry type stuff. And Astros, Athletics. The Astros will absolutely maul the Athletics. Although, the Athletics do like sweeping teams. Sweeping the Astros. At least once a year, the Athletics like sweeping the Astros. So maybe this is that time. We'll see. But those are the series that are going on this weekend, or today. And, that's all I got.
Yeah. Shout out Dallas Keuchel in the Minnesota Twins AAA system. He is absolutely tearing it up. He might be called up, which would be entertaining. A guy that we thought was definitely past his time in Major League Baseball might make a return in the Minnesota Twins organization, and count me in for that. And that's all that I have. Shout out Dallas Keuchel.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we got. If you're still watching, thank you. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment what you thought about what we talked about today. Let us know what you think aggressive buying or reckless buying at the deadline is. And we will see you guys in the next one. A peace. This is a minor league baseball. This is a minor league baseball.